Good morning, Randall.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am doing great. Happy to be
Yeah.
talking to you today.
Your voice has gravitas. Do you know what that means?
Gravitas,
Yeah.
uh, tell me.
When you talk, the way you talk, it makes me want to listen.
I've heard that. My brother says I'm kind of mesmerizing sometimes. I don't know if that's an exaggeration or my brother.
Well, depends if he's your older or your younger brother. But either way, you're on the show because you're a construction and contracting expert. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I came from a non-construction background. Uh, my father was a missionary, and we went to Brazil, and that's where I was raised. When I come back to the States, I finished high school here and went on to mechanical engineering, thinking that was working with your hands. It's not. And after 3 years of that, I slowly worked into getting a job as a laborer. So I came from the trenches on up. And so I started at the age 24, really late compared to a lot of your guests, I'm sure. Many of them start when they're 15.
Yeah.
So I just learned quickly. I went through the union apprenticeship program. I graduated the 3 year program in 4 years, the 4 year program in 3 years,
Oh, yeah.
and won the city and the state titles, and then went on to the national to compete there in the apprenticeship program, which was a great experience for me.
And all that in carpentry.
All that in carpentry. I'm a journeyman carpenter.
Yeah. What kind of carpentry did you do?
All kinds. We started out with what we could, which was framing.
Yeah.
We could get jobs framing.
Yeah.
And then we moved into some commercial work and then moved into design, build, remodeling. So my final years were high-end design, build, remodeling.
Right. Well, that's how you and I ran across each other because we both work with construction trades, contractors all around the world. And you've got a show as well. Why don't we tell people what your show is before we get into the meat and potatoes of this?
Our show is the Remodeling Business Blueprint podcast,
Yeah.
and we put that on every week. My co-host is David Hawk, and we have both not only been remodelers, but we have worked a lot together and have remained friends for over 25 years.
Wonderful. Well, I like your background. And the reason I wanted to have you on the show is because our listeners have lots of questions about systems. They're really about where to get started because we're all coming at this. We're trying to reinvent the wheel. Every single day we climb into our truck or our car or whatever we're doing, getting out there to job sites. And one of the things that you're really, really knowledgeable about is putting systems in place in a business.
Yes, I was just talking to my wife. We were walking alongside the Tennessee River and telling her, everything seems so simple to me because I've been in it a long time. But you think back to all the nights and the trouble we went through and issues we ran into, and we one by one, just our contract alone, just one by one, we said that didn't work. We need to add this clause here. So we slowly started creating all kinds of systems for the business. We were never a huge company, but we always knew that our systems were scalable. So we could move into larger jobs as long as we followed those systems. When we strayed from them, we paid for them.
My son's 10, going to be 11 pretty soon. And he's been watching me for years. He knows I'm a multi-business entrepreneur. And he's like, Dad, what's a business? And I'm like, that's a hard question. And I said, well, a business helps people solve problems. And he's like, oh, what kind of problems? And so then we get into, when you ever tell your kid an answer and then suddenly you get stuck in a loop where you can't keep answering the questions they
Yeah.
Ask.
It's the 5 whys that they're expert at asking.
Yeah, yeah. And he's just such a great, he's my kid. I think he's the greatest kid in the world. I have two, by the way. If my daughter's listening, I think she's great too. But it finally came about, and I said, you know what, son? A business is a collection of systems that work.
Good one.
I mean, that's if I'm going to hire you to frame in my or to build my new barn, I'm actually hiring you because you have a system for building what I need built.
Right.
And I'm going to pay you for that because I don't have the systems to do it. So let's talk about those systems for a bit. Now, you just met a whole bunch of contractors. Didn't you just come back from a bit of a road trip?
Yes, I did. I went to the remodeling show and deck expo in Louisville, Kentucky.
Mm.
And I had a great time because I was able to talk to remodelers. I was able to talk to retirees and craftsmen and vendors. I saw all kinds of neat uh, innovations that were going on in the industry. Really enjoyed that. I haven't been to a show in quite a while, but now I'm starting to go to those again. I'm going to go to the IBS, the International Builder Show.
Yeah.
I think that's in Vegas early in the year 2020. Enormous show. And looking forward to seeing more innovations and meeting more of the contractors out there. I just love helping contractors
Yeah.
do their business better.
Well, they're straight shooters. It's just fun to deal with them because there's just no BS, right?
That's for sure.
Call it as they see it. Well, I'd like you to have in your mind a contractor you met at the show. And today what we're going to talk about is what your specialty is systems. If I'm a business owner, like a guy that you met at that show, and I don't know where to start putting systems in place in my business, where do I start? How do I get this wheel rolling?
Okay. First, I'm going to tell you the premise of all my systems. The premise of all my systems is setting expectations. That is the most important thing. And when should you start setting expectations? You set them the moment you pick up that phone and answer a lead. Right? So what I would say to a newbie is, let's start with sales. Let's start with our first contact. And let's tell them exactly what they can expect from us at the next step and the next step and the next step.
Yeah.
When you do that, people become comfortable. They start to trust you. They realize they're talking to a professional. And now you just follow your sales process on from there. But that is where you start in sales and the first contact.
You know, it's interesting you say sales in the first contact because I would imagine that most people listening to this show and your show didn't go into business because they wanted to be a salesperson. They went into business because they're good at making or doing whatever they do or make.
Yeah. Remember we talked about the CAs, right? The CA meeting, the Carpenters Anonymous.
Yeah.
Because most of us are craftsmen. And I didn't know anything about business when I went into business.
Yeah.
Not a thing. I'm like 5% markup. That's excellent.
Oh,
Let's do a 1.05 markup and we'll be making money.
oh
Well, I
no.
learned a lot about that in the next few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not salesmen. Most of us are not businessmen. And we need to understand how business works, and we need to gradually get our belt off, our profit tool belt on.
Thank you. That was nicely done.
And start to make money in the business and treat it like a business.
Yeah. You know, the reason I mentioned that is because when you talked about starting with the sales process, which is it's not where a contractor thinks to start, but it's actually where the business starts. And if you think of a funnel, which is, and the pointy part of the funnel, the tip at the end is where we do the job. But the wide part at the top is the sales or even the marketing process.
Hmm.
And so you're just saying naturally follow that flow. Start at the top, do the first thing first, do the next thing next. It's just like if you show up to paint a house, you don't do the windows on the top first, right? There's a process for doing a house. But then again, if you show up to frame a house, you build the foundation first.
Yeah.
So
Has to
whatever
go
the
that
system
way.
is.
Has to go that way.
Yeah. So sorry. So first start with a premise, set the expectations. Love it. What's our next piece of golden wisdom?
Well, then we're going to make a visit. I have two ways of making a visit. The one I prefer is to get them to come to your office. As for those who aren't newbies that are more experienced, that is the best way to sell, because boy, you're looking really professional, and when you get good and look at your historical numbers, you understand that you can give a rough price without ever looking at the job, just
Mm,
by saying, oh, you want a 4x5 shower, you want it curbless, you want to walk in, you want grab bars, you want heated mirrors and heated towel bars. Well, right away you're starting to say, okay, this is a high-end bathroom we're talking about.
right.
We're probably looking at 50 to 85,000, and we give this range and try to get them to buy into this.
Into the range. Right. If they go, oh,
Yeah,
we thought 20, then you haven't wasted your time.
that's what they do too.
Well, they
I say,
don't know.
I haven't sold I told a lot of people, about kitchens. They said, well, we're looking at 15 to 20. And I said, I haven't done anything under $85,000 in 5 years.
Yeah.
It just, and I said, maybe you either need to look at a larger budget or someone else.
Or yeah, other options.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that range idea though, because it's the first gut buster, testing close. Now, do you ever do that on the phone before somebody comes to you, talk about a range?
Yes, we do. We do. They'll tell me a little bit about what they want on the phone, and then I'm going to say, well, just roughly, it looks like you're looking at about 20 to 30,000. Is that something that you can live with? And if they say yes, then we continue. If they say no, we're going to say, well, what are you looking at? And then see if we can possibly give them a solution for that at that price point.
But Randall, what if they say no?
If they say no, we say, it's really nice meeting you. Can I put you on my email list?
Yeah. I think that's a great point. We have to be okay with losing deals that aren't perfect for us.
Oh, now that is a very good point, because the culling process, the qualifying process for customers, clients, is so important. It wastes a huge amount of time when you don't do that properly. And not only does it waste a huge amount of time, if you choose the wrong customer, then you've got really high stress.
Mm,
And they are going to try and beat you out of every penny they can.
yeah.
So it's a bad job. You don't want those people. And as you get experience, you can smell these red flags. You can see them popping up. I'll talk things over with my wife later. I'll say, this happened, this happened. She said, man, that's too many red flags.
Yeah.
You need to
Just
let
better to
that one
walk
go.
away. It's
And
better to walk away.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's hard when you're desperate. And when you need business and you're taking anything, it's really hard to walk away. But you're better off not doing that.
Yeah. I think that's probably, there's people out there either shaking their heads or nodding their heads. This is one where we've got the audience divided.
Yeah.
People who've been at it for a little while probably recognize, I wouldn't say the trouble they've gotten in, but when you've got the wrong client, it's nothing's fun. Nothing goes easily. And when you've got the right client, the perfect client says, here's the check. We're going to Florida. You think you can be done in 30 days? Full access to the house, full access to the site, the property, everything's ready to go. It's a perfect job. But unless I, as the owner of my business, start by looking for the perfect client, we're never going to have them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So premise, set the expectations. Number 2, make a visit. Have them come
Make a
to your
visit.
office. Now, some guys won't have their own office. What did you do in the
Right.
days before you had your own place.
Which was quite a few, actually, quite a few days without an office. You go to their house, and one of the things that I used in my system, let me get a drink of water here. One of the things I used in my system, excuse me, was a presentation book, and it made all the difference.
Oh, you did use
Because
it. We call that a pitch book. You used your own pitch book.
yes,
Good.
and it's the mistake you make with the pitch book, as I call a presentation book, is to show them all of your accolades, your rewards, and how long you've been in business, and look at these pretty pictures. That is not about them. And that's key here.
Whoa, you just hit a huge one.
You do not talk about you, you talk about them, because they're very open to you talking about them. Very open to that.
Now,
as Earl Nightingale said, the most important person in the world is a person you're talking to.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of radio station WIIFM?
No.
You've never heard of it?
No.
You're tuned into it right now.
I am.
You are. Everybody is. So I'd like everybody to pay attention here, and I'm going to do my radio voice. There's only one station in the world that's playing 24 hours a day inside everybody's head, and it's WIIFM, broadcasting live in my head about me all the time. WIIFM is what's in it for me. WIIFM. Yeah, it's.
I love it. I love it.
WIIFM. You hit it just on the head. It's easy to show testimonials and awards. They might want to see that, but only in relation to how it helps them. What's in it for them? They want to talk about their dog, their baby, the craft that they made, the garage rental they did on their own. All of those are important to them. And less important is you, unless you are there to make them look good or feel good.
So what is important to them? What is important to them, again, is what can I expect in the next step? So in a presentation book, you're going to show them, this is important. We have workers' comp, and we are licensed. Here they are. And we have a contract, and it's a well-written contract. Here it is. And we do change orders, and we have a design retainer agreement. And that is the subtle hint, not so subtle really, that we charge for our design,
Yeah.
So those are very important things. So you lay out everything they're going to see in that job. And then at the end, that's fine. Have some accolades. We even had some cartoons we cut out and made a little page, but we don't show that to them. That's for them to peruse later on while I'm out of the room. And they want to, and that's another ploy we used, if you call it a ploy, but I would show them this stuff. Of course, it's too fast for them to ask questions. And then I'd say, I'm going to go measure, just do a rough measurement, just to get an idea of the space. You're welcome to look at the book and and then you come back and then you got questions because they've chit-chatted.
They've looked at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the next step is show them what they can expect and move on to getting them to be okay with a range.
And people need these visuals, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words. It's the reason that we use blueprints to build things and not verbal. If you've ever built something on a verbal, you can realize what the problem is, right? So pictures in these books is important.
I saw a guy at a show, and I liked his product. It's called Engage with an I, Engage. His name was Charles something. And he basically gives you software to create your own presentation book. And I talk about that in my systems. You can go in with an iPad. And I said, if you're going to use iPads, bring 3 of them. And give each one of them an iPad and you an iPad. Don't make them crowd around you. I mean, be generous with this thing. But the thing that doesn't work is it's technology based and people know how to turn pages really well. So if I have a presentation book there, a physical book, it does have advantages that you don't have with the other type.
Yeah.
So I'm not being old fashioned. I say use both maybe.
Yeah. Well, there's also something about the leave behind, and we can talk a little bit about the marketing. Sometimes I get weird looks from people I work with because I'll say we need to build something called the manufacturing operations flowchart or the business operations flowchart. And my clients will say, "Well, Dom, you've been working with, this kind of trade forever. Don't you already have one done?" Yeah. Well, can't we just use a copy you've got? Nope. Because the key is building it ourselves together. So we build, how do you run your business? And so we have that as the manufacturing operations flowchart, all the way from sales down to collecting on the deal and all the pieces in between, and then asking for a referral. So we finish that particular piece of work in our coaching, and they say, "Well, what do we do with that now? Put it on the wall? Who do we share it with?" I say, "Well, you go back and you share this with the customer."
Yeah.
Well, why would we do that? Because the customer wants to know that you've got systems that work. So when you're sitting in front of somebody that says, "I want you to make me a new pair of concrete stairs or a concrete patio or a pool or a pond," or you're an electrical contractor, show them this is the process we follow to do your job. Just so you know, can I talk through it with you? And they go, "Yeah." And you show them step by step. Now, when the next guy is in front of them or talking to them on the phone, everybody gets held up against the standard you've set. And at the end of the day, even if you're more expensive, the best customer will say, "I think we still want to go with Randall. He knows what he's talking about."
That happened time and time again. Because my whole thing that I preach to my clients is, and I'm not talking about remodeling clients, I'm talking about industry leaders, but is that when you leave a sales meeting, I don't care what price you've given them. When you leave a sales meeting, you have to be so much better than anybody else that they cannot not use you.
Yeah.
You're so good. They go, "I know he's a lot more expensive, but these other guys, they didn't have a presentation book. They didn't show us anything. I don't know what to expect."
Can't believe in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to add another addendum here, and this has to do with contractors' websites. What I don't see often enough is a tab called process. And I think that is essential that you have a tab called process, because people will go there.
Yep.
You can't really put prices on a tab because that doesn't work. But the thing that they are going to press on probably pretty quick is process. And then you lay it out. And my second pet peeve is people can sometimes condense that into too small. The processes aren't really well laid out. Take some time and really lay those things out carefully, because again, and this is before they talk to you, right? You're setting expectations before they talk to you. It's really important.
A business is a collection of systems people are going to pay you for.
Yeah.
Now, we're in a market right now that's a bit wonky. It's different than it was. Remember 2008?
Yes, I do.
Everybody said, "Last guy out, please turn off the lights." And if you remember the 80s, and I'm sure you do, and that's not a slant at your gray hair because mine's chasing you. But we are in a market right now where it's easy to get business, and we are trying to run that business and just keep ourselves from feeling like a chicken with our head cut off. And I think a lot of people would have tuned into this episode saying, "Well, I need systems, I need something because I'm going crazy." So let's assume that I've done all these things. I've set the expectations on the sales process. I've got my sales process is fine. Let's just assume that for a second, because we've got sales coming in. Where would be the next place that you would go to put systems or processes in place in the company so the owner's not going bonkers?
Well, the next place would be production. It's a logical progression, right? And one of the things that I preach so much is controlling the job.
Right.
Some people feel like controlling is manipulative, that it's They really shouldn't be controlling. They should let the customer have their way. The customer's always first. Well, you do that and you'll probably lose money. And I would almost guarantee you that they will not be as happy if you let them, if you control the job, than if you let them control the job, because they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And so it is up to you. That's why they hired you, to stay in control. So when you control a job, you have to manage people well, and
Right.
you have to manage logistics. So one of the things that I would emphasize, in the end of my career, before I retired, I was 100% sub for the last, I think, 20 years. Yeah.
So you subbed all everybody for you was a sub trade.
100% sub.
Yeah.
I was the only person on the job that had a salary. But everybody else was an independent sub. And I know there's probably a 50-50 out there. Some people are all in-house. Some people are 50% in-house. Some people are 100% sub. But it is a very good way to make money, provided you know how to sell, because your prices are going to be higher. The plumber has a 50% markup on his stuff, and you got a 50% markup on the plumber. Well, obviously, that's a little more expensive than just hiring the plumber.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is something somebody out there needs to hear, but I want to put it out there based on you talking about 100% sub. For those of you out there listening who can sell, who can market, who are comfortable in front of clients, I want you to remember that all of us have an unlimited capacity to sell. And all of us have a limited capacity to produce. Right? So a plumber can only plumb what a plumber can plumb, but a sales guy can keep 10 plumbers busy. Right? So we have an unlimited capacity to sell. So if you really want to put the afterburners on your business, sell, get good at selling, or get a good salesperson you believe in to keep you as busy as you want to be, and then get ready to ramp up. And I like the strategy you had, Randall, which was go 100% sub. Not everybody listening is going to want to do that, but I think it needed to be said.
Yeah, and so managing your subs, and one of the contracts I use is a subcontractor agreement. And that is not the easiest thing to do, but it is the way you maintain your company culture, because they are representing your company at this point. They're in the client's home and they represent your company. They don't care if they're a sub or not, or if they're an employee. So that's very important, the subcontractor agreement. And how do you get that signed?
And you're talking about you and the subcontractor
sub, yeah. This is the way I control them, is to say, these are the things that you have to abide by for us to work together.
Yeah. How long is that agreement?
It is 2 pages, I think.
Nice and short.
And rather strict.
And how long did it take you to find subs that you knew you could plug and play with?
It took
because it's not instant,
probably
right?
15 years of trial and error until I got some good ones. Every once in a while, one would go off the rail. Like I had a plumber. I love the guy. He had 5 brothers, I think, that worked together. And he just priced a job for him. And I said, "Oh, Mark, you're just way out of line here. What's going on?" He said, "That's the best I can do." And what it is, he has too much business. So he's like, "Take it or leave it." And I'm like, "Okay, I can't take it. I'll get somebody else." And I did go back to him eventually. But when somebody goes off the rail, you have to monitor that. And say, you're out of line. I can't use those prices. Another thing about subcontractor agreement, how to get it signed. The best way is to have a breakfast for your subs, bring them in, and say, "Please sign this document," and hand it back to us at the door or mail it to us. But that helps because you have some other people, some peers agreeing to do this.
Mm.
And we're all working together to get this done. So that's a nice way to do it. Now, when the plumber shows up on the job, he's not the guy that signed it. The guy that
Yeah.
signed it's back in the office.
Yeah.
So every work order has a condensed version of your regulations on them.
Mm.
And that's not enough, because did they read those? Probably not. So
No.
the superintendent, the project manager, or lead carpenter, when they come on the job, his job is to reiterate to the sub, I'm not your mama. You pick up your own trash at lunch, clean up every day after the job, no loud radios, no cussing.
Yeah.
So that is, those are the thing, the communication parts of the system that have to be followed.
Yeah. People are listening right now will say, well, systems for production work, but we're a custom shop. Everything we do is custom. Everything. So you can't put systems in place if you're custom. And I'll come back and I'll say, yes, you can. This is how we put together, this is how we coil up our electrical cables. This is how the air hoses go away. This is what time we show up on site. This is how you use a client's house bathroom. This is how you leave a client's house bathroom. This is like no cussing, no swearing, right? No loud radio. All of those things are important, right? You do not smoke on site. You don't smoke in their yard. You don't smoke in their, if you want to smoke, you can smoke at designated break times. You need to do that by walking 5 minutes away. You need, and people are they're gonna fight you on that, and you're gonna say, well, then that's fine. You're not our sub.
Yeah, because you have to have the culture. I mean, if you are charging high prices, you got to deliver.
Yeah.
You can't be a Motel 6 and act like the Ritz-Carlton.
We could tell by the soap. You can just tell by the soap you get in a hotel where you are. Yeah, you're right. So that's excellent. So that you're working on the production system. It sounds like you have really fine-tuned that as well. And that's a constant state of work. Did you have your own site super? Did they work for you?
I did most of my own supervision. Like I said, we were a smaller company.
Yeah.
We just happened to be a very high profit company. Our margins were 33 to 40% gross profit. Even if we built the house, we're going to make that 33% on it, because we ran. I didn't do too many houses. Most of mine was design, build, remodeling. But we had a client that we did a 3,500 square feet, one level retirement home for them. Really nice home. And I made my margins on it.
Yeah.
And had a very good Christmas that year.
And they did too. They got a great house that they wanted.
They did.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
and that's because we manage the process. In your case, you know how to build a 3,500 square foot single level home. And that's this a package of systems they bought from you. That's what they wanted.
Yeah. And they said, if you don't build this for us, we're not going to have a home. We're just not going to move. And I said, okay, I'll do it.
So you've got the sales system you put in place. First, you'd work on sales. Next, you'd work on production. What's the next system or process? What's the next place I'm going to look? Remember, I'm a contractor. I'm listening in the truck right now, or maybe I've taken a few minutes to go for coffee. I'm listening to this podcast. What's the next system or process I should put in place?
Closing the job out, and the post-project task that you need. Closing the job is really important. This is where you want to leave them with a smile on their face, right? Well, if they're frowning, you might not get a repeat customer there, but they're happy. They're going to call you again and again. Yeah. I had customers that I had for 15 years. I'm constantly working on their house. So you want those kind of people. So at the end of a job, what do? Well, you need to communicate with the customer that how do you use this faucet? How do you turn on the lights? And we have a lot of electronic stuff. I suggest that all contractors get up to speed with home automation and show their customer how to load the apps on their phone. You know,
Yeah.
you have to do a little hand holding for these people, because most of these people, when they're spending 100, 200, 300,000, they're making their money somewhere else. They're not learning about how to run an app.
No.
So you got a lot of hand holding, a lot of hand holding.
So would it be fair to say that one of the steps in your system is that as you're approaching the end of the job, you're doing quality control throughout? Do you have a Randall deficiency walkthrough before you do the client deficiency walkthrough?
Well, what I teach all my subs, and if I'm doing it, or if I have a lead carpenter sub on the job, which I did, uh, I'm all about zero punch list. I don't want the customer to see a defect. I don't want them to see it for a week or a day.
Yeah.
I want that fixed right away. So we're constantly walking that job and working the zero punch list, because when they see a defect,
Everything else appears.
and everything else appears, and they remember it too.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there was a crack there.
Yeah.
But if you fix that crack before they get there, they'll never see it. It won't be in their memory, and everything will be fine. So at the end of the job, yes, we do one, but there is very little. I think a lot of salespeople say, let them find something wrong, so they feel like they've done their job. It's a psychological thing. Like if they don't find anything wrong, well, maybe they just missed it. So let them find one or two things wrong on the job, just small defects, fix them immediately, and be on your way. So communicate that, give them their warranties. I had one customer, I came in, we had just finished the kitchen, and we came back the next day to do some tidying up. And she said, my faucet at the sink doesn't work. And I said, what? We checked it. Everything was fine.
Yeah.
She said, well, yeah, look here. She ran the handle back and forwards, no water. And see, I had overlooked the fact I should show her how this faucet worked. You pull out for the water to come on back and forward for hot and cold.
Oh.
It's just a small oversight, but that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. People need to understand what you're giving to them, even if you understand what they are. So
Yeah.
give them your warranties, say how long, set up your post-project visits. I suggest you come back after 30 days, 6 months, and 12 months if it's a 1-year warranty.
Right.
Because those are the absolute best sales opportunities.
Isn't it true? You know what happens is they're gonna be talking to their friend, say, "What'd you do today?" They'll say, "You know, our builder came by. Randall came by. He built this place a year ago. He stopped in 3 times so far." And then they get to talking over coffee or at the barbecue. You know, we got Thanksgiving weekend coming up here in a couple of days, and they're going to say, "That's the builder you need to use." And by the way, even though you were more of a general contractor, it goes the same for plumbers. It goes the same for guys doing stamped concrete.
Absolutely.
Whoever's listening here, cabinet makers, painters, we're all in that same boat. Own your work. You know what I tell cabinet makers to do, and it works really well, is they will put a brass plaque or customize the hinges inside the door. Because if you're really truly proud of the cabinets you've built, then why wouldn't you have a way for people to find you later? So put a beautiful brass plaque inside the door. I mean, they come to $3. You get them done at the mall, right? Right? Project completed for the Randall Soules family by Dominic Rubino Architectural Millwork in such and such year and such month. And that goes inside somewhere hidden, but you show them that and you say, "This is how we stand behind our work." That is another level that goes in the system that you're talking about.
Yeah. You remind me of something. This is a little off topic, but have you ever heard of people putting information like that inside newel posts in old homes?
No.
Yeah. So I had an 1897 Queen Anne Victorian I restored, and we lived in it 28 years. Wonderful home. And I had plans drawn up because I did CAD and everything. And I got a set of them And before I put the newel cap on, I stuck it down. I wrote some things on it,
Oh, what a good
and
idea.
stuck it down that newel post. So
Yeah.
someday somebody will probably find those. Who knows when?
Yeah. What a great idea. Well, Randall, I really appreciate you sharing all these ideas and thoughts with us. I think you've probably changed the lives of some people today.
That would be good.
Wouldn't
my
that be
goal.
good? If we could do that every day, wouldn't that be a life well lived?
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. Well, there's somebody driving around frustrated at their business, and putting systems in place is the surest way to stop being frustrated or feeling like you're always running around like a chicken with your head cut off, really, getting
Right.
pushed around by the company. Thank you for joining. Hey, if somebody wants to find out more about you or hear more of your words of wisdom, what's your podcast and how else can we find out more about you?
It's remodelingbusinessblueprint.com. And a good episode on there was with Greg Antonioli. And that was how do we handle this building boom? It wasn't how to find more customers, how to handle the business boom. Uh, and the other side of my business is scientificremodelingsystem.com, scientificremodelingsystem.com. And that is a membership site. It's a one-time membership fee on that. And I have all my contracts there. We have 13 contracts and forms to run your remodeling business. We have the Scientific Remodeling System Manual, which is the backbone of the business, which is 12 sessions from sales down to marketing. Contains some of the stuff we just talked in today: phone scripts, analysis of phone scripts on sales, and probably the most valuable thing in this whole system is the standard operating procedures template, the SOP. Because if you don't start building an SOP today, you won't have any value in your company in the years to come.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because if you don't have your systems written down, how can you sell it? How can you pass it on to your employees? Because they don't know what to do with it, and then it fails. And when you leave the company, the value leaves the company. So I advise everybody to start building their SOP. And we have a 200 heading, pre-filled headings in our SOP. It's 45 pages long, just the template.
Yeah.
And that will get you started, because it took me 3 years to make this template. And it's a very complex thing to put together. But if we got a nice outline,
it's easier.
Now we can start filling it out.
Yeah.
A little at a time.
A little at a time is just what I was thinking. For those of you listening who are wondering, where do I start? Just start on one thing, get it done, save it to a hard drive, maybe not on your own computer, because that's a failure point too. Save it to Dropbox or Google Drive, and then tell somebody where you saved it. Share it with your administrator or your wife or your business partner. But you've got to start somewhere. So start, even if it's sloppy, even if it doesn't make sense in the beginning, start getting better every time. Yeah. Randall, thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like I just took a course at a university, took a bunch of notes and my arm hurts.
It's been a pleasure. And as always, I enjoy talking with you anytime. You are a fountain of knowledge, and people should definitely pay attention to you.
Thanks, Randall. We'll be sure to have you back on the show again.
Be glad to come.
Have a great day.
All right. See you. Bye-bye.